Welcome, and thank you for joining this Cloud Customer Connect event. Questions for the presenter can be posted in the Q&A panel at any time during the session. Today's presentation is being recorded and will soon be available within the event post in the Cloud Customer Connect community. And now let's begin our live presentation.
All right, hello everyone. Let me start sharing my screen. Okay, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining Oracle Analytics Lives for September. Let's go there. All right, so we would love to have you introduce yourself and mention your country in the chat. Also, for any questions, please enter them in the Q&A, and we will try to answer them live at the end of the session or throughout the presentation. This is Fari Javamahdi. I'm a Principal Product Manager with the Product Strategy team at Oracle Analytics, and I will be your host today. So this is our safe harbor statement. I'm just going to stay here for a few seconds. So we ensure that everything we're sharing with you today is protected under this statement. And it's great that we have many people joining from different locations in the world, from UK, from India, Brazil. So great to have you all here today. The agenda for the day is that we will have an update from the product strategy. We will have analytics industry trends and updates. New trainings available. We have some demos on Watsi DB dashboard, Oracle Analytics platform, also a demo of the API snapshots now in the general availability. We will have a demo of the dataset editor, an overview of that feature, new mobile release, and a demo of the configurable account analysis from the FAW side. And then at the end, we will answer your questions. So with that, I'll pass it to Ben.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Fari. And hi, everyone. My name is Ben. I'm Senior Director of Product Strategy for Analytics. I wanted first to say thank you for joining. I see a few people. I see Yusuf from France, Manoj from Canada, Nataraja from India, Andrew from San Antonio. I see people from everywhere. So thank you so much for joining today. In the next slide, we are going to see what's going to happen. So yeah, before I wanted to say also thank you to all our Oracle Analytics leaders. As you know, Oracle has almost 500,000 customers using Oracle databases. Out of these customers, a lot of them are using Oracle Analytics. And part of them, we have our top leaders from Analytics. They are called the Oracle Analytics leaders. You have, for example, Cyril from Delta Airlines, Laurie from MetLife, Vamsi from Hertz, and so on and so on. So thank you very much for your help, for helping the product strategy. We are really happy to have the best analytic leaders in the world using Oracle Analytics. In the next slide, I'm going to show you what's coming to the September update. So in September, a lot of new features. The product management worked a lot. All the software engineers did a lot of work also. First thing to know, now in Oracle Analytics Cloud, if you click on your profile picture, and then if you click on About, you will have all these new features and the list of the new features and how to use them directly on your screen. You can see it's the screenshot here. And on the screenshot, you can see all the different type of new feature we have in September. We are not putting any more numbering for a specific feature or a specific release. Now we call it by the month when we release all the features. Again, this month, a lot of good things. REST API connector. You can now connect to Twitter, Bloomberg, Yahoo, anything offering an API endpoint. You can do it. And sorry, can you go back, Fari, to the previous page? Thank you. We have also the semantic modeler as a preview. So same thing, you can have access to the best-in-class semantic modeler in the industry. And in this semantic modeler, you can do all your data modeling, your subject area, your hierarchies, and more. We have also a new way to personalize the custom calculation. You have the way also to do a new tile, so to put KPI at the top of your data visualization. You can also customize the header of a table or pivot table and do more with managing snapshot programmatically. So the September update is huge. I'm going to show you few slides of what you can do. So on the next slide, you are going to see that you can have a new filter experience. So this new filter experience is here at the top with discount, gross unit price, shipping cost. You can see the bar is slim now, very thin. We reduce the size of the bar, but we put bigger filter with more options. For example, the order date, you can see the list, the date range, the relative time. You can disable the filter and more. It's not finished. You will see all these filters evolving in the future. We are changing completely the experience, and you will see also new prompt coming. Right now, you have access to the list, to the drop-down list. In the future, you will have checkbox, radio box, and more. On the next slide, you are going also to see what you can do directly with the preview feature. So if you are a system administrator or if you are administrator in OSC, you can go to the system settings, to the preview option, and here you can activate the generic REST API connector or the semantic modeler. In the future, you will have access to new features every month through this specific preview mode. So one of them that I wanted to show you, it's in the next slide. And in this next slide, you are going to see that we are finally going to release the export to Excel. So for export to Excel, you can now export to CSV, which is not formatted. In the future, you will have access to export to Excel formatted XLSX format, which is basically when you export a pivot table, it will export as a pivot table with your row, with your column. It will also put the conditional formatting, the font, the color, and more. So it's a big change. At the start, you will be able to export 25,000 lines. In the future, you will be able to export way more, but we will lift the limit after. In the next slide, let's see if we have something else. Okay, so just before that, I'm going to share really quick my screen. Fari, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to move here. I just wanted to remind you that Oracle Analytics is integrated with OCI services. OCI, it's Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. One of the new services that everyone is using, it's artificial intelligence vision. So with AI vision, you can load your images and do object detection, like here, where I can basically click on the picture of my doorbell camera, and you can see it's recognizing clothing, human face, a man. If I click on that one, it's going to recognize a door, footwear here, a man, and so on and so on. So you can see a lot of different things. So you can use that for object detection. You can also use it for image classification. It will recognize, for example, on this picture, if it's a Starbucks coffee or if it's, for example, an iPhone. So again, very, very cool. And Fari, you can take back the presentation, and we will have now James Richardson. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ben, for the product strategy updates. James?
Such cool stuff, Ben. I love it. So I'm James Richardson. I'm VP Product Strategy in the Oracle Analytics team. I joined Oracle from Gartner in January this year. If you've seen the Magic Quadrant for Analytics and BI at any point in the last sort of 10, 15 years, you've seen some of my work already. So what I'm going to do in this short 5-minute session is just provide some context around some trends that are important in the market. So Fari, you could move on to the next one. There are 5 trends that I'm going to talk about very, very briefly and relate them to each other. The top one is that the analytics and business intelligence market is obviously now a cloud-dominated market. If we go back a few years, we saw a lot of independent vendors that were not aligned with necessarily a cloud ecosystem, and that's changed. I think the other thing that's very significant, looking at the top dot here, is remote work is incredibly important to us now. As kind of an unintended consequence, or I suppose all consequences were unintended from COVID. But remote work, where we work is now remote very often, how we connect and how we make decisions collaboratively. So looking at collaboration both within the analytic and BI environments and outside them. So that's incredibly important. The two below that, augmentation throughout and ongoing slow collision, are related to each other. So augmentation, you see that in Oracle Analytics Cloud very clearly with natural language generation, with auto insights. Really what we're saying there is that there are assistive technologies helping people do more with these tools than they could do in the past. The analogy I use is a little bit like advanced braking systems in cars. They're now, you can't buy a car now without ABS in it to help you, when you want to steer and whilst braking at speed. That a few years ago was something that was kind of outlying functionality. Now it's core, and that's happening with augmentation. And when I say throughout, it's going right from data preparation through to automated data story creation. Ongoing slow collision with DSML, the data science and machine learning tools market is slowly getting closer and closer to analytics and BI. That's partially because we're seeing a rise of a new group, the citizen data scientists, that are really interested in doing more than simple visualization, and maybe want to look at some k-means clustering or something like that. Or maybe they want to be able to train an ML model. You see that in OAC, and that's going to happen more and more in this space. The two at the bottom, mode 1, mode 2 unification is really a fancy way of saying mode 2 is agile and iterative. OACs and OAS are fantastic, allowing people to really dynamically look at data, to explore the data, to find patterns and non-obvious relationships and outliers in the data. That's mode 2. Mode 1 is report-centric kind of production that happens on a scheduled basis. Many of the visually driven analytic and BI tools haven't had that, but Oracle's had that from the beginning. So we're seeing the market move towards not just automatic creation of material, but also allowing people to generate reports and understand those and get those on a bursted or scheduled basis. Automated data stories is related to reporting. If you think about row and column style reports that are full of KPIs, or dashboards which are generated on a regular basis, it might well be that infographic driven content is more attractive to certain demographics in our organizations. And it's obvious that we're trying to get people to be data driven, to look at data, to be compelled by data. And that means generating data stories, not just through humans making those, but through systems using DSML and inbuilt augmentation that spot outliers and patterns in the data and generate auto stories, much as you've seen in podcasts for a while. So next slide, please, Fari. There is an overarching trend which has become very apparent, which is analytic and BI technologies have been dominated by ease of use for analysts for a long time. How easy is it for me to do analysis? Now, how easy is it for me to drag and drop some data, to do some joins and then generate a visualization and share that with people? That's true, it remains the case. But the definition is shifting away from that to, what analysis does this do for me? How does this help me do my job? And if you're perhaps an analytic consumer, perhaps you're not an analyst, you might need that assistance, and that is becoming incredibly prevalent. And I would argue that differentiation in this space now is really about how you can augment people and assist them. And Oracle Analytics Cloud is fantastic at that. And then a final piece of context is a Gartner slide that I worked on when I was there. Fari, if you want to move forward a slide. This is all about the move, which I've mentioned already in the space, from analyst to consumer focused. There are 5 things there: the prevalence of data stories, the use of augmentation, conversational through the use of natural language query and natural language generation, so bidirectionally, and then obviously systems that are open, that allow you to do embedded and composed application development are hugely important. And at the bottom of this slide, final thought, it says decline of the dashboard. I think Gartner were being a little controversial there. Really what they're saying is the dashboard remains in place, but it's not the only game in town. The data story, the mobile experience become very important to reaching consumers and different types of users in our organization, and pushing ABI, analytics and business intelligence, to a wider audience as it can, so we can improve as many decisions as we can in our organizations. So a little bit of context around the trends that are happening in the market. Thanks, Fari.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, James. So let's go to the next presentation on the new trainings by Shiva.
So thanks, James. So I would like, I'm Shiva Oleti from Product Strategy, Oracle Analytics Enablement team. So I would like to talk about the upcoming trainings that we have planned for the current fiscal. Next slide, please. Sorry. Okay. So we have planned 4 user sessions. So 2 on Oracle Fusion Analytics and 2 on Oracle Analytics. So this is intended for the end users. And if you have any technical folks from the customer side who wants to do some content creation, so it will help them as well. So what is the assumption? We do not expect any prior experience in terms of Fusion Analytics or Oracle Analytics cloud or server offering. So this is just a consumption experience that we will be providing as part of the user sessions, and we would provide some kind of content creation experience. So this happens every 3rd week. So we have it in 2 time zones, one early Eastern and late Eastern. So if you are from APAC or EMEA or Eastern time, you can pick the early Eastern time. And if you are from the Pacific or from Latin, so you can choose the later session. So we have this every 2nd and 3rd week. So we have it happening at 7 a.m. and 12 p.m. For Oracle Analytics and 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. for Fusion Analytics Warehouse. This session is, each session is for 60 minutes and we have 2 sessions. So you can click on the register to register to the session. Next slide, please. So what are we covering as part of this? So the 2 sessions of Oracle Analytics. So in the first session, we would be talking about the basic getting started kind of thing, where we'll introduce how do you build your first analysis, how do you navigate to the existing analysis, how do we create a connector, how do you create a data set. So it's mostly from the consumption experience. So similarly, we have deeper insights where we will teach about how do we what are the different ways to build a visual? How do we leverage out of the box capabilities to build a visual or to use a visual? So the same way we have it for Fusion Analytics as well. So next slide, please. So specifically for business users, we have a coffee talk session, which happens at 9 a.m. every month. We have it on every 4th Thursday of every month at 9 a.m. So what are we planning to, or what are we covering as part of this topic? So it is about a feature and how it can be leveraged at a better way to accomplish an activity or to generate an insight. And next slide. So the next slide talks about, say you have some technical community or technical SMEs. I'm sorry, this was not the color coding that I have given, but let me work with this. So this is, we have 2 sessions for your customer technical folks or technical SMEs. So each session is 60 minutes and we have the schedule which is available. You will get the schedule by clicking on the link. So we have 4 monthly sessions and 2 revolving sessions. So what does this mean? The sessions which are colored in green happens every month, and whichever is in the lighter green, say, for example, we have ordering and activation and provisioning the instance. So this happens on month 1. And on the month 2, we have the 4 sessions, and we have data configuration and security administration on month 2. On month 3, we have administration and ordering and activation. So this is what I meant by revolving sessions. Each of this session is 60 minutes. Only ordering and activation is for 30 minutes. So next slide, please. So this is in terms of FAW. So in terms of Oracle Analytics, so we have a similar session for Oracle Analytics, which is starting next month. So we have the link which is already provided. So it is yet to publish, and you will see that maybe in a week's time. So what are the sessions that are available in Oracle Analytics? So you have 4 monthly sessions and 4 revolving sessions. So as I've explained in Fusion Analytics, the revolving sessions happen in the same pattern. Like month 1, you have 1 and 2, and month 2, we have 3 and 4. And again on month 3, it starts from revolving 1 and revolving 2. So whatever the sessions that we have on a monthly basis, it happens every month. So that's pretty much from my side.
Great, thank you so much, Shiva. And I think if we could include some of those links in the chat, would be really helpful for our attendees.
Sure, I will share that in the chat window.
Wonderful. Perfect. So we will move to a demo of the Watsi data visualization with Dan. Dan, I think, did you want to share your screen?
Hi, Farah. It's Daniel. I'm going to demonstrate the Watsi dashboards.
Wonderful.
Can I share my screen?
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. Let me see. Okay. Can you all see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes? Perfect. So thank you for introducing me. And I'm Daniel Paniza. I'm Solution Engineer for Oracle Public Sector at Brazil. And today our demonstration, it's about the data from a very kind organization called Watsi. Watsi is an organization that funds healthcare for people around the world by raising donations directly to the patient. And to help them with their mission, we export some of their operational data to find new insights. First, it's about their network promoter score, or the score the donor gave them about their experience. In the NPS, we have 3 possible classifications for the score. Promoter, for the score rated between 9 and 10. Passive, for score rated between 7 and 8. And detractors for NPS rated 6 or less. The original data didn't have this classification, but we were able to prepare and enrich their data set using the data flows inside Oracle Analytics. Also in data flow, we were able to extract keywords of the donor comments using the text tokenization operator. So here you can see the raw data about comments and the keywords and nice keywords that we could get from the text tokenization, like great, transparency, easy, love, and of course, Watsi. We made a lot of data enrichment, creating new attributes and metrics for the final dashboards. So let me explore these new metrics and attributes with the workbook about patient data. Okay. Some of these Bs required some preparation steps. It includes this butterfly graph about the age group by gender. In the original dataset, the age could be defined in years or months, so we use data flow to clean and bin the operator to classify the age groups. And we created also metrics with filters for each gender. So if you click here in my calculations and edit it, here I have my metric using a filter so I can see only a specific value about my column. So here, male, gender, males. and another one for female patients. So I can have two metrics and use the butterfly graph for this kind of V's. Another nice V's is the scatter plot using the cluster algorithm. Here, each bubble is the category condition of the patient. And we can see that there are shift treatment that impacts lots of patients. Here in the axis, you can see amount of patients in the horizontal axis and the average treatment cost in the vertical axis. The size of the bubble represents the average days to be published in the Watsi website to be funded by the donations. So here we have shift treatments that impact a lot of patients, like eye disease, and some expensive treatments for special cases like congenital heart defects. Okay. Now, let me show you a little more about the pipeline defined in the data flows. So here I have all the data pipelines. I like to create separated steps for the data pipeline. And now here I created steps for loading data from the CSV to our database, preparation steps so I can make sure that every attribute is going to be okay with their data type, and another steps for the enrichment. And for every one of these steps, I created also a sequence. So I have a sequence of steps for load the data, prepare the data, and enrich the data. And just a little example of the enrichment we made here for the patient data. Here you can see my flow. I use it not only to enrich, but also to deduplicate some data and created new columns like the amount of days between being published and funded, and also average cost, treatment costs for the use in the dashboards. And the bin operator to create our age group used in the butterfly graph. So with this, I end here my presentation about the Watsi data visualizations. I hope I got you inspired to make some donations today. Thank you. Fari?
Thank you so much, Daniel. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, and we will have an analytics platform overview with Barry. Barry, welcome back.
Thank you, Fari. My name is Barry Mostert. I'm a senior director again with product marketing, but I'm going to show you some ML today, some machine learning and how easy it is to do. So if I can share my screen, please. Okay. Now that you can see the screen, I'm hoping. So what I'm going to start here, this is live OAC. And I'm going to go into a little bit about machine learning. And so machine learning and data flows and all those capabilities, data preparation, enrichment, they're all built into OAC. They're not separate add-ons. They're not separate costs. When you get OAC, you get the machine learning, you get the data flows. Everything is part of that. So what I'm going to do is use that to do some very simple machine learning. Now, a lot of people are actually quite surprised when we talk about that as being built into the platform. So I'm going to start here with this new workbook. And what I'm going to do is I've got a little bit of a simple data set here, which is sales for a company that sells stuff like electronics. And what I'm going to do is say, let's look at the month sales and the revenue number. And I'm just going to drag that onto my sheet here. And you can see it's quite seasonal. So over the summer months, they seem to sell more. And if James started talking about the citizen data scientist and the evolution of that. But, you know, before we get to the citizen data scientist, I'm going to get into that role as well. But if you're a normal user, machine learning is not out of your hands. You can very easily start to add forecasts and things like that by coming up here and choosing the advanced analytics option. So if I'd like to predict the next few periods of revenue, I can just go to my forecast, double click, and what the system will do is give me automatically a next 3 periods of revenue prediction. Now, if you've got like an incomplete period when you're doing a social engagement reports and you haven't finished this month, rather than just filtering out the current month, you can actually use ML to predict what the month completion numbers would look like. And that's kind of cool, a little more cool than just filtering out the current month. And if you wanted to go forward in periods, instead of looking at 3, I wanted to look at 6. It is as easy as doing that. And I've got my next 6 periods added in. And it has chosen seasonal ARIMA as my model that's built in. We do have 3. I can switch to ETS to see the difference. This is where you start to have a little bit of knowledge as to what best model is going to suit your use case. But in my case right now, it is seasonal data. So seasonal ARIMA is the right model, and I can go with this. Now, as a standard user, that's going to be pretty easy, but I'm going to go into another level and start looking at what happens if you're a citizen data scientist and do something a little different with data flows. So I switched to my data flows, and very simple data flow, and he has 3 steps. You saw Daniel had in his demo multiple steps, and you can really put in a lot of logic in here. But I'm going to bring in a simple data set, the same one we looked at previously. And then what I'm going to do is bring over my ability to train a numeric prediction. And down here on the bottom left, you can see the kind of capabilities available. Train numeric, train multi-classifier, and I'm trying to predict revenue. So I'm going to go with a numeric prediction, which is what I brought in. Now, as a numeric prediction, I can also see the different models that are built into the platform. And we have 4. We have the elastic net, random forest, cart, and linear regression. And I know for my particular use case and my revenue prediction, linear regression is the right one to use. So I've chosen that. So now you can see the difference. As we move into the citizen data scientist, this kind of user does understand a little bit more about what these models mean and do. What's the difference between a cart and linear regression? The next thing I want to do is select, what is it I want to predict? And out of my data set, I can see all of the different things I want to look at. And of course, we've been talking revenue prediction. That's why I select revenue prediction. But as a citizen data scientist, I need to now tune that model by setting these parameters. And you can choose whether it's going to be a lasso or a ridge regression method. Now, if you don't know what the difference between lasso and ridge regression is, that's when you need to step out and do a little bit of research and understanding, or go back to another model that is going to be more suited. But for every business and every use case, tuning this is going to be an iterative process until you get the model right. And I'm going to show you how you do that very simply in my 7 minutes. But I can start to up and down various things with an educated understanding of what I'm doing. And once I've set my parameters, I save that model. And I'm going to save it here as this one right here, OA Live Train Revenue Prediction. So now as a citizen data scientist, I've tested that model. I'm going to save it, and I can even certify it and push it out to into the OA platform as a published model. Now I'm going to become a standard user again. Now I don't know how to set those parameters, but I do need to do revenue prediction. If I'm sitting in finance, I don't want to know about the difference between lasso and ridge, but I do want to be able to use that model. So in my data flow, I do something similar again. I bring in my data set, and just for simplicity in the 7-minute demo, I'm going to use the same data set. So I'm going to bring in the data set, and I'm going to apply the model this time. So as a standard user, I'm going to drag in apply use model from the bottom here. And when I do that, I can click on this and I can see all the models that have been allowed to me. And right here is my OA Live Train Revenue Prediction, which I created in the previous tab. So that's been created, set. And once I bring that in, I can also see that the predicted value it's going to create for me is something called predicted revenue. So in my data set, I'm now going to have revenue, which is the actuals, and I'm going to have this predicted revenue. And I can look at the different columns coming in, and I can just get a little preview of what's going on here. But what I want to do really is save that data set, and I can make sure that my data set's going to have all the attributes and measures set correctly and save my data. So now that I've executed my data against this model, I'm going to look at what the results were. So right here, I've brought in the result from that previous machine learning trial that I've set up and pushed it out. And I can see here I have my OA Live predicted revenue data set, which I've brought in. Now, if I think back at the beginning, I'm going to pick in month and revenue again, just like I did before. And you'll remember that we had the seasonal state here. These are the actuals. But what I'm going to do that's different is at the top of this data set, I now have the machine learning predicted revenue. Now, remember, I used the same data set, and I did that for a reason, because now if I bring in my predicted revenue, I'm going to compare the two against each other. So in my light, or my redwood green blue, I have the actuals. And in the orange, I have my predicted revenue. So what this is telling me is the performance of the model against actuals. And you can see that the model has actually done pretty well. It's a little bit more conservative in the fact that hasn't matched the peaks and it hasn't entirely matched the valleys. So the conservative nature of the model means it could be good, or we can go back and tune it a little more. So if I was going to tune it, I'd say, okay, I would like this to be a little bit more aggressive. I could come back to my train. And this is where, as the citizen data scientist, I can say, well, look at this. I think we want to make it a little more aggressive. Let's up the null maximums. And the train partition percentage, we're going to bring it down a little bit. And we will run it again. And then we'll see what those results look like and if we're getting closer and closer. But eventually you'll get to a point and you'll be able to have a standard model that you can push out that anybody can use. But what I wanted to show you today was that here we are doing real machine learning, and I haven't seen a single set of code. And this is something with a little bit of Googling, you could probably start to understand with a little education. What are these parameters you're working with? Understand how to train these models and really start to do some excellent machine learning. So that's me for today. Thank you. And I'll hand it back to you, Fari.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Barry. Let me go back to my screen. And the next presentation is on the API snapshots by Mike.
Yeah, hi. I'm just going to share my screen.
Sure. I'm going to stop sharing now.
Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Mike from the Analytics Product Management team. I'm going to tell you about the REST APIs that we've introduced into OAC. So we're extending the Analytics Cloud developer capabilities, and we're starting to build out a set of REST APIs. And these are really key capabilities if you want to do any scripting of your OAC instance lifecycle, or you have some programmatic requirement or use case, maybe as part of some custom development. And this will kind of add to our existing capabilities where we have a couple of SDKs for custom viz and data actions, as well as our embedding framework. So the strategy, if you like, for our REST APIs is that they're going to be stable, so you can be confident to build code against them. They'll be versioned, so you'll understand what version you're using. Comprehensive, so we're going to be adding additional endpoints over time as the OAC releases kind of go through time. They will support asynchronous operations, so I'll explain a little bit more about that in a moment. The authentication that you will need to use with the APIs is going to be based on OAuth 2, and I'll give a few hints on that in a moment. The first set of API endpoints is going to be covering snapshots. So you may also have heard the term bar file or BAR file. So snapshots, the snapshots API is going to be very useful to automate some tasks that you have, such as backing up and restoring your system, or moving your OAC instance through the application development lifecycle, for example, or even setting up using some scripting and some programmatic code to set up a sort of disaster recovery system. So the REST APIs for snapshots will allow you to create a snapshot that will be stored within OCI object storage. If you have an existing snapshot, you can upload that to object storage and then register it using the API with OAC. And you can query all the snapshots that you've got registered, or you could query a specific snapshot using an ID. And of course, you can delete those snapshots as well. The initial delete is not from object storage, but it's actually from the registration with OCI. And you can also restore your system from any snapshots which you've got registered with OCI and are stored within OCI object storage. The work request ID. So I mentioned that some of these operations are asynchronous. So when you create a snapshot, it's not created instantly. And when you restore a snapshot to an instance, again, that's not an instant process. So when you call that endpoint, you will get a work request ID back, which you can then query using another API endpoint, and that will give you the status of that job. So some things that are good to know. Get to know a little bit about OAuth 2 and how to obtain bearer tokens. I have a blog. If you Google OAC OAuth 2, this will give you an overview of using OAuth 2 with Oracle Analytics, as well as an introduction to some terminology, as well as some sample curl commands that you can use to get tokens. So that is kind of needed to authenticate. You'll need to be able to authenticate to object storage. So find out about API keys within Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, as well as object storage. And a tool such as Postman or Insomnia is quite useful for testing and generating code samples. So in terms of the other endpoints that we're introducing, we're going to have some endpoints in preview. They will be the most recent additions to the REST API, and you can use them for evaluation and training, getting to know them. But we just need to know that some of the aspects of those APIs may change. So if you've written any code or scripting against endpoints which are in preview, then you may just need to tweak those when they come out of preview. And we currently have a reload data for dataset endpoints in preview. So just in the last 10 seconds here of my time, I will show you the documentation for this. So you can see we have an introduction to the REST APIs. We have information about authenticating against them within the doc as well. So using this information in the doc, as well as that blog that I pointed to, should give you a good overview. And then for the snapshots, you can see we have a description of how to use these endpoints, how to use work requests. And then I mentioned the data sets. So if you can see here, we have an endpoint which is in preview. So that sort of concludes my session, and I will hand over to the next presenter, who I believe is Lewis.
Thank you so much, Mike. Luis, did you want to share your screen, or you want me to share?
I do.
Sounds great.
So thank you, everyone. My name is Luis Rivas. I'm Director of PM for Oracle Analytics. And today I will take in a quick tour, an end-to-end of the dataset editor. We will be creating a single dataset that will be consisting of several tables from multiple sources. We will use all of the augmented power underneath the hood to create the joins between these tables, prepare the data, such as enriching it, standardizing the data, repairing the data, and then we will see the results in the workbook. So we'll get started. We'll start by creating a data set. And this is kind of the home screen that we're all familiar with. We can create data from multiple sources. We'll start with an ADW database and select 4 tables from a particular schema. We can drag all of them together. And as you can see, as we drag them, if we have enough information, the system will automatically join them for us. It's a default of inner join. We'll pick the right keys for them, but you can also change these joins to be left, right, or full outer. We also do a semantic profiling of the data and give you sort of a high level view of your data. So we can identify nulls, and we inline give you the ability to rectify those issues, such as nulls to an A. We can standardize data directly with the quality insights here, and we'll change this not specified to low, and it'll just roll over. We give you instant previews of the data as we're repairing it. If we want to do a little deeper repair of the data, we can take you into the data set transformation editor. And here's what we have. The left-hand side has our transforms, or right-hand side has our recommendations. And if you click on a particular column that has recommendations, such as this order date, we can do single clicks on these recommendations, for example, to extract the day of the week for the dates. You can also do manual transforms on each individual column. For example, we can click on profit and change the property of just profit. But let's say that we have all these measures and we'd like to do make some changes on multiple measures at the same time. So we can go into the metadata view, select all the measures, for example, that we'd like to change, and we want to change these from number to currency. And you'll see that all the actions are being applied to all of these columns I have selected. We'll change the currency type to euro. And if we go back to the data preview, we can see that all of the data has changed per our request. So single clicks to multiple columns all at once. If we go over to the customer table, we can see that the quality insights follow the data into the transform editor. And besides identifying, issues with the data such as nulls, we also have a deeper understanding of some of the columns in the data. We have system knowledge that's preloaded into every instance of OAC. And this particular column was identified as city. We've identified some invalid city names, and we can filter on those invalid city names to help you identify bad data. We can quickly fix that bad data in line with the quality insights, and we feedback and recalculate the data quality, and we can tell you that it's also been repaired. Then we can enrich, we can accept an enrichment for the city, again, leverage from the system knowledge, and you can also add custom knowledge. On zip codes, this is sort of a pattern recognition that the system does during profiling. We recognize this column as zip code. We recognize that there are some invalid zip codes, and by adding a missing leading zero, which is a very common issue where other applications remove leading zeros from zip codes, make them invalid, with a single click, we've repaired the zip code. So that's a very quick, sort of transform and enrichment of the data. So let's say that we have additional data that we need to add to this model. We can bring data in from multiple sources that we support in OAC. We can bring in data from a local subject area, but in this case, we'll just go ahead and bring in data from a file, which is a relatively new capability of OAC. So as you bring in the file, we'll give you a preview of this Excel file. If you need to change the sheet, you can. And if there's enough information, again, during the profiling, we will automatically join that new file with the other tables, with the right other tables in the thing, or you can actually join them manually as well. And at this point, we're done with our model. This is a single data set comprised of 4 tables from one source, 1 file from another source. We'll give it a name, and then we can click on Create Workbook. And the way the workbook consumers see this is every table becomes a custom folders. They can start looking for their columns and dragging them over, or we can take advantage of the auto insights where, again, leveraging the deep profiling that we do on the data, we can discover insights and you can begin to exploit your data that way. So that is the end of my presentation, and I'll hand it over to the next presenter.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Luis. So let me share. Sushil, did you want me to share my screen or you want to share yours?
Thanks for that. I think I can share my screen.
Perfect. Thank you.
And in the meantime, we are going to run the NPS poll. So for all the attendees, if you can tell us what you think about the current webinar from 1 to 10. Thank you very much. And then you can go, Sushil.
Mm-hmm.
Please go ahead, Sushil. We are good to start.
Sure, thanks, Ben. Let me start sharing again. I hope you all can see my screen.
Yes, we can see.
Hello, I'm Sushil Dhoot from the FAW Financial Analytics Product Management team. And I'm here today to talk about our upcoming preview feature, which is the configurable account analysis. When we talk about the day in life for the finance and accounting users, linkage between GL and subledger accounting information remains to be the core business requirement. In FAW, our Gen 1 or existing account analysis subject area feature is targeted toward this. but it has limitations in terms of number of subledgers it supports, as well as limited number of accounting periods, data for, limited number of periods what resides there. Now, our Gen 2 configurable account analysis feature is a fairly dynamic solution designed to work based on user-defined templates, which offers much required flexibility to choose the enrichment attributes, journal sources, considering customer-specific flavor of account analysis reports. It's a one-time setup which translates to custom subject area, which I would be demonstrating here next. And most importantly, this is built on top of account analysis foundations, which ensures all the subledger accounting data is available on a comprehensive basis. Let me get into a pre-recorded demo here. This is to help us appreciate this feature in a better manner. So first thing, I'm logging in here as a function administrator, navigating to console. And here we would see the option, but first thing we should ensure, which is a prerequisite, that's our account analysis foundations function area. It has to be active. The pipeline has to be up and running, because this is going to bring in all the underlying data elements. And now getting back to the advanced configurations, here user is going to find the option to define the template. This template is going to drive the definition for the custom subject area, starting with the subject area name definition, choosing here, let's say financials, my account analysis. Similarly, description, which has to be entered by the user. Selection of journal sources, it's critical because this is going to drive the downstream selection of enrichment attributes. Let's say if we take a use case here, which is GL to payables, kind of a reconciliation analysis which user is trying to build, for which we would need manual journal source and let's say payables. With that, we can proceed to next. And now here, if we see, the outline is fairly comprehensive, which is getting us all the attributes coming in from payables, and this gives the opportunity to the author to select what all attributes they would like to select, let's say everything around invoices, payments, and this can be at the individual attribute level or at the folder level itself. So things let's say supplier related attributes, supplier type, etc., which can be selected. And when we proceed next, here we can review the definition of all the selections which has been done. At this stage, if needed, we can go back and make the required changes. And at this stage, if this outline looks good, where we have attributes selected from the journal source, let's say payables in this case, along with that, the account analysis foundations, which gets in all the GL and accounting related attributes. That's a fixed set of selection. At this stage, we can save the definition, and if we see, the template is in draft state at this stage, which again gives us option to edit if there's a need. User needs to go back and make the necessary changes, they can do so at this stage, or I'll just proceed with publish. Publish is a background process which is going to do the required job of creating the outline for the custom subject area. After refreshing the status, we can see it's changed to published, which means my custom subject area should be ready at this stage. And once it is published, again we have a complete life cycle for the template supported, where you can again come back, make the edits, which makes brings in the required scalability to go and change the sources or attributes if needed. And that was the authoring part of it. Now I'm getting into the actual subject area which has been defined here. let's look for financials my account analysis. Here I see the subject area is available. It's loaded in the library, and the outline is based on the selections we have done. So I'll take a pause here, and this is basically the end result. And now when we talk about the end user, they are going to see this subject area, and they can stitch the kind of analysis they would like to do depending on the process they follow in the organization. I'll proceed with a sample illustration here, selecting ledger, just choosing my relevant ledger here, Vision Operations USA, let's say. Then going to the time dimension, selecting the fiscal year. As I said, we can see all the historic periods loaded here, selecting the current one, 2022. And with that, I can extend this information further with the key matrix. I'm choosing key matrix from journal credit, debit, and net amount, followed by attributes coming in from journals again, GL related attributes, journal sources, journal category, and posting status. This gives us the basic analysis here. We can see data coming in from various sources. Now, it's important to distinguish, though our selection was specific to payables and GL related attributes, the data what we are seeing here is comprehensive. So all the journals which have been created for the Vision Operations USA for 2022 fiscal year, we can see all that data. And this information now can be extended further with the help of enrichment attributes, which are from the payables. I'm selecting the relevant attributes around invoices, payments, supplier, or let's say I want to have payable source in my analysis. Just get those attributes added to the analysis, and we see the GL information is extended with the payables related data, filtering on the payable source. Now here we can see all the data, or maybe the relevant journals which are coming from payments or invoices, and I want to extend this information and get really at the granular level of each transaction which is contributing here. So I'm adding transaction related matrix, and I can see all the journals which were available in summary are extended at the transaction level detail. So this kind of puts together, comprehensive analysis starting from GL all the way to the subledgers, depending on choice of attributes. That's it. That's what I have for today. Back to you, Fari.
Great. Thank you so much, Sushil. Let me go ahead and come back to our presentation. So I know we are at the hour. Probably it's a good time to transition to answer some of the questions. I'm just gonna close this call, and I'm gonna read out the questions. So anyone from the Oracle team who wants to answer, please go ahead. So the first question is from Rahul. Is there a future plan for having event polling feature in OAC, similar to that we used to have in OBIAE on-prem?
So I'm not sure if maybe Luis or maybe Mike wants to answer that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we will have that. We can get back to this question, I think, after the session.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, we'd be interested to know what kind of events you're particularly interested in. We do have the ability to create sort of event data actions within OAC, and then they can be polled from within a custom application. But what I suggest, Rahul, is send myself, mike.darren@oracle.com, an email with your question. We can sort of explore it a little bit further offline.
Yeah, if you could also clarify the use case, because like Mike said, we are working on things like notifications and other use cases that use events, but as a general purpose event, it's a little nebulous. If you could clarify the question, that'd be great too.
Perfect. So the next question from Grayson, are there any updates on the embedded analytics, embedding the iframe into other platform or custom apps, and visualizations related REST APIs?
I'm just typing an answer. So on the first part, I'm about to type an answer, which is a link to a blog for embedding into iframes. On the second part, some of those endpoints are going to be on the roadmap. So I'll just respond to that and you can move on to the next question.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mike. Okay, next question from Walid. Can we assign a default value for OAC workbook filter?
So we can, right now, we can put a default value either to a specific filter or to a prompt. They are also redesigning the filter experiences. So in the future, we might have also the ability to save filter customization or to save prompt customization. And I think maybe, Jacques, you might want to add anything to that?
I also believe we may support sort of variables as sort of default filters as well. So there's a broad platform-wide project that is going to allow us to surface all sorts of variables that are similar to what the OBIEE stack used to have. So I'm sure a lot of people on this call will be happy to hear that. And those variables hopefully will be able to drive some of the defaults as well.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jacques. Okay, next question. Do you have any plan to give free certification with respect to Claude in this year?
Barry, maybe? Or Barry, do you know?
What was that one?
So do we have plan to give free certification with respect to cloud in this year?
Free certifications, no. If you want to be certified, that is an OU course, and you'll probably need to pay some cost to do that. But we do offer some free training courses on Udemy and some other cases like that, but not for certification.
Okay, thanks, Barry. Next question. Can we have received AP, AR, and GL in the custom subject area to reconcile all in the account analysis?
Yes, we allow selection of variety of journal sources. In this case, source would be payables, receivables, which will get in all the transactions and receipts related data. So yes, it's pretty much possible.
Perfect. Next question regarding what Sushil is demoing. Will this feature be available for custom created subject areas, as we do here at HID?
This feature itself will translate to a custom subject area. If the question is related to any existing custom subject areas related to other data sets, that's all supported through extensions. This is a purpose-built solution catering to only account analysis requirements.
And I think Robert's question might have been surrounding non-FAW customers in the context of that, if I'm reading into that a little differently. So I think the answer would be a little different there.
Perhaps we should deep dive on that, Jamie, to understand the context better. Maybe if it's related to non-FAW sources.
Yeah. I think we'll reach out to you, Rob, on that one. We can go to the next question.
Thank you. All right, next question. Does Oracle Fusion Analytics require separate license apart from Oracle ERP Cloud?
Fusion ERP Analytics or FAW ERP Analytics it's a separate SKU, which is part of the FAW application suite, so it has to be bought separately.
Next question: Do we have a functionality in DV to schedule workbooks similar we have agents in OBIEE?
So I will take that one. That one is a highly critical feature requested by all our top Oracle Analytic leaders. It has been planned now since maybe the past 12 months and actively worked by an army of software developers. It's being quickly released in the coming months, and you will see it will be not exactly the same as OBIE agent, because OBIE agent, it's only for the classic side of Oracle Analytics, but you will be able to schedule any DV workbook to be sent by email with an attachment. It will be either CSV, PowerPoint, XLSX, so the formatted format of Excel. And in the future, you might have also some condition to send email. And something, I think, Jacques, you were working on conditional formatting and also on the condition agent for the schedule email. Is it true?
That one would come a little later, but everything else you mentioned is on deck. I don't know the exact release dates. It's not my area specifically, but I've seen it. I've seen it work, so it's there somewhere soon.
And you will be able also to put an image of a DV project, and also you will be able to customize the signature sent by Oracle Analytics or something like that. So a lot of good things to come to increase the usage in your company. So very good thing.
And very easy, much easier to use than an agent, to be clear.
Great. And I believe the last question is, can a custom subject area come from a subledger output from Accounting Hub?
Definitely. So we intend to support not just, seeded subledgers of Fusion, but even the Accounting Hub related custom subledgers which would have been defined. So data pertaining to that in terms of accounting data that's already residing in FLW. With this preview feature, there'll be a flexibility to even extend that information further.
Perfect. I think that concludes all the questions that we have. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I think it was a great session, and we look forward to see you again next month.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Everybody.
Thank you all for attending. You may now disconnect.